welcome. My name is Errity Green, and this is Wise Women Oracle and Tarot, and today I have a pick a card reading for you on how to live your best life. I feel like all of these have been so fun lately, but they're always meaningful and deep as well. So, if you find you like this reading, that you enjoy this channel, I encourage you to like, to subscribe, press that bell icon. Let me know how much you love the new intro because I love it so much. And I will make sure I credit the person below who made it for me. And I also want to briefly share a little bit about me and where you can find out more about me. You can find out more below in the description, as well as at erritygreen.com, where I do offer both personal readings as well as coaching programs. And if you find that you like YouTube/true crime, I do have another channel that is updated, not as often, but it is called Psychic True Crime. So if that kind of thing tickles your fancy, you can check that out over there. So from here, I will go ahead and place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from today, and we will get started. Okay, so card pile 1, how to live your best life. Hands down, right off the bat, this is about putting your spirituality first and foremost as primary priority in your life. This is the foundation, not the doing and the task list and the checklist of all the things that you have to do like human doing, but really putting spirituality as paramount and as primary in your life, whatever the cost, whatever is required in order to make this number 1. I sense some fear and some resistance. There's another word, it's just not coming up as easily, and so if it does, I'll let you know when I share that, because I feel like you are meant to be deeply spiritual, deeply profound beings. This is supposed to be like the source of your life, the place where you source all of your wisdom from, all of your guidance. It's what's meant to support you and hold you and carry you through. You might be someone who carries a lot of responsibility or a lot of obligation, or has a big vision or a legacy to fulfill, and truly the only way it's going down is if you have the right captain on your ship. And that captain ain't you, shockingly. It's God, cosmos, great spirit, universe. And so huge part of not only your life and your destiny, but also of your learning curve and of your soul's journey. It's like this overcoming the belief that anything else has to come first, or that I have to do this in order to do that, or like first these other things have to be addressed before I can put spirit first, universe first, God first, whatever. And it's like that's the thing that's going to be your foundation, your support. Like that's the thing that's going to carry you through. It needs to be the first thing, the primary thing. If there was any choice at all, it would be that thing. And I sense some fear. And what's interesting, and not the second, but I did earlier, and the reason I feel like that is, it's because at the deeper level, I feel like there's a lack of trust spiritually, and or an unwillingness or fear of surrender or letting go of control. So that's really what it's about. So you might tell yourself that I have all these responsibilities or these duties or these tasks, I have all these things to do, and there's no way I can put that front and center. Like I can't guarantee meditation. I have all these other things. I mean, girls gotta eat, gotta take care of business, gotta take care of the kids, the things, the this, the that, and it's like, don't know if I had time for yoga, because like sometimes I will, but sometimes I won't. If the kids are screaming, then, and it's like, got to take care of so-and-so, or take care of this, or take care of that. And it's like, card pile 1, at least for most of you, if not all of you, you subscribe to the belief that like that is primary, like those things have to be in place first, or you have to figure something out about those things, like those things have to be addressed first before you invite more spirit into your life, or before you're able to create more space for yourself, for that deeper connection, for that expanded connection. But it's actually a flip-flop. If you're coming from the awareness, the limited mindset of it has to be that way, it's going to seem impossible to do it differently or to experience it differently. Again, it's going to be like, well, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know how that would look. I don't know how it would work. It's not possible. It's not practical. It's not feasible. So if you're able to just shelve that for a second, and just leave that or let that go, and then step into the awareness of, if I made spirituality front and center, if I made my own expansiveness and well-being and my inner environment and ensuring it's a sanctuary or a place of peace, if I made that primary priority, what would my life look like? And just beginning to explore how your life might look different, how it might start different in the morning and end different in the evening, what your routines might be, or how they might change, or what would be different about them. You're just playfully exploring what your life would look like if you made your spiritual foundation, your inner truth, source, spirit, number one for you. And you'll see very quickly that when you're outside of the limited mindset of like the problem solving and the control and the micromanaging and the focus on practicalities or whatever, that it is possible to put spirituality front and center. Doesn't mean things wouldn't have to change, but it would be an organic change. It doesn't mean that you might not encounter some resistance within yourself or maybe from others, but all in all, it will be a natural, organic change, more so than an impossibility. And that part of you that believes in its impossibility is really just in fear of the consequences. It's almost like even in fear of your true power, in fear of what is possible for you, in fear of your greater potential, in fear of it being that good. And fear, like not even letting yourself have it that good. It's almost like the part of you that is more subscribed to practicality and 3D and all the things you have to take care of and all the things that you have to do. It's more subscribed to putting a limit on your fulfillment, your peace, your happiness, your joy, because then you don't have to worry about it being taken away. Then you don't have to worry about the other shoe dropping. Then you don't have to worry about disappointment, hurt, or failure. It's easier, put that in quotes, when you can just be in charge of all of your accomplishments and taking care of things and checking off the tasks from the task list, because if you're in control, you can more or less assure you'll do it. You'll feel accomplished or feel good about yourself, and you can kind of sleep or rest easy. It's a little bit more difficult to like throw all that up in the air and say, I'm going to put spirit first and let it bring me into a life of greater fulfillment, peace, and joy, because of all the other fears that we already talked about. So card pile 1, you're actually meant to be someone who, again, is very deeply spiritual. You're probably already there, but it wants to be expanded. It wants to become front and center, because this is truly who you are, and you will feel more supported when this is made your priority, as opposed to what else you make priorities right now. That's what wants to come through first and foremost. Yeah. So any disappointment or upset or challenge or difficulty you are experiencing is because you are misaligned. It's because there are areas of your life that aren't aligned with spirit, that aren't aligned with this being your top priority. If your well-being, if your expansiveness, if all of that was your top priority, you wouldn't feel those feelings. It's almost like negative emotions, I'm giving an example, aren't negative in the sense that they feel bad. They're only negative because we resist them. So it contorts the body and makes that emotion feel bad. It doesn't have to feel bad. And because we're shamed and conditioned to believe that it's bad, so we internalize that and again resist them, shame them, try to hide them or tuck them away or suppress them into a dark corner. And again, that causes a feeling of what we might call discomfort and or bad or negative emotion. So nothing is truly quote unquote bad, it's that we have resisted it, and then it makes us feel uncomfortable. And so why I share that is because whatever feels off in your life, or wherever you find anger or upset or disappointment or stress or whatever, it's a direct reflection of where you're not aligned with spirit and or you're not aligned with making that your top priority. So it's almost like you could bet your bottom dollar if you're having a rough day, you didn't put your spirituality front and center. If you're having a very stressful day, you probably didn't meditate or do yoga or honor your well-being or ensure your expansiveness or do your part to connect, to pray, to receive, to meditate. Whatever your particular flavor or practice is, however you deepen, connect, and expand your relationship with yourself, with your own source, with spirit. It's like, again, bet your bottom dollar that anywhere where things feel stressful or insurmountable, difficult, challenging, it's because you haven't put spirit first. If you decided to do that, you would see and recognize pretty clearly how easy it is, like how it just facilitates your process and it makes things feel easier. It doesn't feel as intense or heavy or challenging. So you're going to take a look at the areas of your life where things feel difficult, where things feel challenging, where things feel stressful, anything other than ease. And you're going to take notice that the reason it doesn't feel quote unquote right or good or expansive or whatever is because spirituality wasn't the priority there. And in some way you're not in full alignment with what is possible, with what you are capable of, with what wants to come through for you. So it's a matter of getting all of these areas in alignment, and that could seem difficult or a big job, but at the end of the day, it's not a matter here of going to each area and saying, okay with work, and okay with house, and with health, and with children, I've got to get this in alignment, I've got to get that in alignment. And it's not really piecemeal like that for you. It's very much about just making spirituality front and center. You have a daily morning routine. You maybe have an afternoon routine. Maybe you have an evening routine, more ritual, more gathering with a spiritual focus. However it is that you relate to the divine. Bringing that into your life. If that's reading for you, if that's journaling or writing for you, if that's dancing or singing for you. Wherever you feel like you can get in that creative flow into a space of simply just being without having to think too much about it or micromanage it or try to control something. It's like basically the moments of no agenda where we're just being and existing and experiencing. The more that you can create space for that, and each of you know where you feel that level of awe and profoundness. Like those are your areas that you want to bring into your life and make front and center, primary priority. The more you do that, everything is going to come into alignment all on its own. So let's see what else we have here. So how to live your best life, spirituality, your spiritual connection is front and center. Yeah, it's about you feeling supported and held by the divine, recognizing that that's going to be your helping hand, so to speak. So some of you might feel unsupported. Some of you might feel like you don't have as much help as you need. Or some of you just feel like you're carrying so much. Maybe you do have a lot of help or support, but you're still carrying so much. And modern life is so much. And it's like the thing that you're seeking isn't what you think it is. You might be thinking that you're seeking something out here. If only the world would do this. If only this person would do that. If only this person could do this. If only this person could do that. When it's actually about you learning to lean into and rely on spirit more and rely more on that deep, like soul level connection where you actually feel some relief. Because if it's, again, not necessarily front and center, if we're just sort of like a side note or a tangent of your life and not like the full Monty kind of, it's going to be like, okay, it's there, cool. But it doesn't, I don't know how much it helps, kind of helps, sort of helps. Sure, I really like to have that. It's nice when I get to start my day off like that. But, if I can't, then. So you see how that's different from when you actually make this your foundation. It starts to become not only who you are, but it's sort of like what you're built from, what you're sourced from. There's like this indestructibility to it. And it's also something you can lean into and actually feel relief and support from. Like there's an actual shift in you. Not something where it's like, oh, just nice is like oh, sure, well, that's nice to have, It's like, no, you feel the difference. You feel different as a result of this deeper connection. So you're being asked to explore, to expand that more. Let's see what else we have here. How to live your best life. Okay. Also, now I know this is sort of a side note, but I also feel like it's relevant. It's creating more experiences to come into community with others, but with intention, with focus, with those who are like-minded, who might also be spiritual in nature, who might also have a sense of purpose in this regard. It's like not so much of coming into greater gatherings and community where it's just sort of everyone doing their own thing or just like kind of random talking or like, it's not like scattered and random. It's purposeful. It's focused. We're all coming together to do blank. There's a common objective. There's a common goal. This could be group meditation. This could be a yoga class. This could be a book club. Something where you're gathering with other people who are even like-minded. But also create this opportunity again for that deeper spiritual relationship. And it doesn't mean it always has to be quote unquote spiritual at face value. Like maybe it's not a group meditation or a group yoga class. Again, maybe it's a book club, but there's something about a group of people coming together with a focus or with some kind of directive that supports like the potency or profoundness of that group. Like it's not just any old people, any old thing, any old place, right? That's kind of what it's more intentional. And it's like you would be well served and feel more supported and more held when you create space and or prioritize community, or even quote unquote spiritual community, coming into community with people who are like-minded and like-hearted, who are on a similar wavelength and frequency as you. And that the more you sort of plug into these groups and plug into these communities, the more it's going to support you to kind of build this foundation, to sustain this foundation, the spiritual foundation in your life. It won't feel like it's just kind of you on your own, this like rogue, me against the world kind of person. It would feel like you are held in this group and community and you're all walking a similar path. So card pile 1, in all, how to live your best life. It's about deepening and expanding into your spiritual relationship and connection. It's finding ways to make that your number one priority in your life and creating an overall spiritual foundation for your life so it can direct you, support you, hold you, offer you relief and actually a feeling of relief, and to also bring other people who are like-minded and like-hearted into your life. To where when you do come into community with other people, it feels purposeful, it feels meaningful, it feels beneficial, it's nourishing to your heart and soul, and it feels like it matters. So card pile 1, if this resonates for you, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new rating pops up. If you want to get to know more about me and my work, you can check out the details below or at erritygreen.com. Until next time, thank you, card pile 1. Okay, card pile 2. How to live your best life. Okay, so what wants to come through for you, card pile 2, is very much about living life with more focus, living life with more direction, living life with more intention. So there's a transformation or change here that wants to happen such that you are becoming more of an authority of your life. You are directing the show. It's not so much of like happenstance, or scattered here, scattered there, like a little bit here, a little bit there, maybe that, maybe not that, follow through, sort of, maybe not. But it's very much living life with greater intention. Let me see what else wants to come through here, because I feel like there's another message underneath. There might be a conviction or a strength you're being asked to embody as well, and I think that makes sense with sort of taking back the reins or taking back control of your life. It's bringing back the power into your hands, that you get to say, that you get to decide. You get to decide what this looks like, what this life looks like, what you do, who you spend your time with, how you spend your time. Like, you don't have to play along with the cultural conditioning or the dominant culture. You don't have to play the same games that everyone else plays. You don't have to work a 9-to-5 if you don't want to work a 9-to-5. You don't have to be, bound to your house as a stay-at-home mom if that's how you feel. You don't have to do anything. Like, any rules or ideas that you have, any notions or preconceived notions that you have about how things are supposed to be or how they should look or the roles you have to play or the hats you have to wear, those aren't true. You get to decide how you live your life, and it doesn't ever have to feel limited. So a lot of us, when we assume a role, whether it's adult or parent or whatever role you might embody, it's like you assume a number of rules or standards for that role, and then you feel maybe held and bound by it, maybe held, bound, and gagged by it at times, and you're like, well, this doesn't feel right. And please know, those are your own rules, and you are your own limit. The only thing that can limit you is you. Your experience in your career, or even how your career looks, is ultimately decided by you. And it doesn't mean that we can just like flip a switch or snap our fingers and everything's changed. We might have to pursue training or a degree to get a different job or support ourselves to shift into a different role or get that promotion. We might have to do what's required in order to leave a job behind and start our own business. We might have to do whatever is required or whatever it takes in order to bring these results about. There might be work, there might be action steps, but ultimately you get to decide how you live your life. For those of you who are parents and feel like you have to do a certain number of tasks or things have to look a certain way, or it's always going to feel like a lack of freedom or imprisonment, or you're bound by responsibility. You know, that's you and your story. You don't have to live like that. You know, you can live this whatever way you want. You can have as much freedom as you want. Again, it's all the stories that you're telling yourself. It's the stories that you're owning and carrying with you. So there is something here, regardless of whatever form this takes, hat you're wearing, role you're playing. Because some of you feel sort of like not left behind by life, but you're even unsure of like how to move forward or how your life could look different. But then others of you have offered other examples, and it's ultimately about you releasing any rules or shoulds or ideas about how things should go or should be, recognizing that you have the power and have had the power all along and can decide at any moment that it can look different. And it can be very difficult to see that when you're still in it. So oftentimes when on these pick a card readings or with clients or whatever, you know, shelving all these beliefs or ideas or rules or shoulds or whatever that you have for yourself, or all these even ideas about how the culture is and how it's difficult or how it's impossible and all these things, setting all that aside for a minute and then journaling on, well, what would life look like if I did have complete freedom? If I had complete say, complete authority, and complete freedom over how I mother or how I parent, what would that look like? If I had complete freedom and power and authority as to what my career looked like, what would that look like? If I had complete freedom and power and authority and say over how my life went from here, if I was as outrageous as possible, meaning I'm rich and famous and all the things, and right, it can take this totally to the next level, you know, what would my life look like? Let yourself explore those possibilities. Let yourself explore those potentials so you can see what the actual possibility is, what the actual potential is, that isn't limited or bound or held down or hostage by the rules and the shoulds and the ideas and all of that of your own conditioning and the dominant culture. Because you're going to see very quickly that life can actually be much more free than we think. And we are the ones who are holding ourselves down and back with all the rules that we've set for ourselves. Even the times when we say, oh, it's not possible or wouldn't work, you know, those are our own rules. And at any time we can defy those rules and we can support ourselves to live our best life. Basically, how are you going to live your best life? It's coming into complete authority of your life and deciding what that complete freedom looks like to you, or whatever it is that you seek, and then beginning to live true to that regardless, because that desire is there for a reason. It's meant to be there. It's a part of you, and it's meant to be lived. It's meant to be aligned with. And some of you might say, oh, well, I couldn't ever because I have to take care of my sick mom, or I can't leave home because then what would she do without me? Or I couldn't do it because, you know, what would my kids do? And then I don't have a sitter, and you know, all these different things, right? We come up with all these practical ideas and sort of like problems or challenges and excuses and justifications and all that stuff. First of all, this is justifying more of your limitation. Second of all, that's pointing you exactly to where your limiting beliefs are. I can't do blank because blank. And that blank is that limiting belief. You know, and so it's showing you exactly where you believe or where you have these rules or ideas about how life should go. And in fact, you end up limiting yourself or narrowing your life to a certain degree to a point where you don't feel fully expressed. You might not feel like you're tapping into your fullest potential. You might not feel like wholly actualized. You might not feel entirely fulfilled. And it's because you aren't taking full authority of your life. So you're being asked to be more intentional. And that through this intention, you will gain also more strength and conviction as you go, because there is something to that. Some of you might feel more defeated or weak or have a lesser self-esteem or something like that. And I feel like through following through on your heart's desires and doing what you say you want to do, you know, meaning what you say, saying what you mean, and following through that to completion, that's going to give you that sense of confidence, strength, conviction, and self-esteem that you might not otherwise have at the moment. But you're just taking back the reins of your life and you're deciding how this goes and how this looks. Let's see what else here. Yeah, being aware of where you're holding yourself back. Being aware of your limits, where you are giving yourself limits. So we might do that exercise, right? Where we shelved everything, we wrote down and experimented with this bigger vision about what things could look like if you had complete authority and freedom and control. Then you might ask yourself how that is different from your current life and your current experience. And that's going to point you precisely and directly to those limitations, to what's currently in the way of you experiencing your highest and fullest expression and potential. Ultimately, it's about your fulfillment, and your soul won't have anything less than fulfillment. It's going to keep moving you toward that. And sometimes that requires a whisper at the door. Sometimes it requires barging down the door. And sometimes it requires a rock bottom. I like to listen before those days happen. Because ultimately your soul must be expressed. It has no choice but to. It's meant to expand. It's meant to evolve. It's meant to grow. It's meant to break through limits. So it will. The bubble will pop regardless, whether it's up to us or it's up to God, Great Spirit, Cosmos, Universe. So whether you decide to or not, ultimately the power will be handed back to you, whether you're ready or like it or not. But your best life is you living true to yourself, taking back the reins and the authority and the power of your own life, and living a life that's more authentic and true to you and true for you, and that honors your highest potential. That's key too, because some of you might say, I feel some of you saying, oh, I am living authentic and I am living true to me. Okay, well, do you feel like something's missing? Do you feel entirely complete? Where is it you feel like you're not honoring your highest potential, your fullest expression? That's where you want to be looking, and you're just bringing some awareness to that so you can see where you're limiting yourself. Yes, you're meant to free yourself into greater possibilities. You're meant to, and I said, your soul right here wants you to break through these limits, break through these glass ceilings, break through these upper limits. Part of it is you seeing what you're capable of. Part of it is recognizing, being able to see in action your true power, that you do get to decide. Part of it is proving to yourself that you do have the say and get the authorship. Like, part of you just wants to know that it is real, that you do get a say, that you don't have to do it other people's way, or do it the way society told you, or your family told you, or your job told you, or even maybe what your children tell you. You get to do this your way. And that's what wants to happen for you and for your soul. At the moment. Let me see if there's anything else that's coming through here. So I think what has held you back at different times, this might not be the case for all of you, but I mean, it's a dominant card here, so I feel like for many of you, some of you have decided to hand over your responsibility and the power from your life and let other things dictate you, whether any external agent outside of you, whether it's family, whether it's career, whether it's your children or whatever, but ultimately, of course, it's you giving away your power and deciding this. But why? It's because you're almost scared of the responsibility of it. You're scared of making the wrong decision. At some level, there's fear here, and or previous losses that have led you to say, you know what? Instead of being the author of my own life and then being held accountable for any struggles, disappointments, hurts, challenges, or losses that I encounter, by doing so, I'd rather just let go of this responsibility and live by the rules of the government or society or the dominant culture or my husband or my boss, and just make it not about me, because then I don't have to shoulder the weight, the burden, the responsibility of hurt or loss or pain if that occurs on the path of my owning myself, owning my life. Because then, if something were to happen, of course, if some ball were to drop, if you had decided to make the move, then right, it's on you. Because there is something here about forgiveness, and there's something here about whether it's this life or other lifetimes, because I think for some of you, it's going to involve the previous lifetimes and maybe an ongoing karmic kind of situation. And for some of you, whether you subscribe to that or not, it doesn't matter. It could relate to the past, but it's about freeing yourself from, if that landed for you, so that would be one of them, the forgiving yourself and or acknowledging and owning just that awareness that you might be scared of holding on to that responsibility because of what comes with that responsibility. But for some of you, I also feel like there was something else here, and I want it to come back because I'll get certain feelings, and if I don't honor them right there in the moment, but I'm already speaking, so it's hard, I can't talk about multiple things at once, then the feeling leaves, and then I'm like, well, what was it? But let's see here. Let's see what else that was. Is it, for some of you, it's forgiveness in general. Some of you just said, F it, forget it, just never mind, because why bother being intentional about my life when it's going to suck anyway, or it's all going to be taken from me, or it's all going to be stolen, or it's all going to get fucked up, or whatever, right? And so there's just forgiveness in general here as well. So whether it's you forgiving yourself and or forgiving God, Source, Cosmos, Great Universe, Spirit, there is some kind of forgiveness here. Because with that forgiveness, with that grieving, with that mourning, with that ultimately releasing and letting go, what happens is you're able to then bring your power back and step into a place of full ownership of your life, but in a refreshed way, where you have a clean slate, where again, you aren't tied to those limitations of the past. I think there is something here about taking a look at where you limit yourself and seeing how it's tied to old losses, old fears, lack of trust, lack of faith. So where are the limits sort of real, and most of them won't be, or where are they tied to actually fears, losses, etc. from the past, that when released, you're then able to step into more self-government. That's what it's about, self-government versus external government, letting your external conditions govern your life, govern your lifestyle, govern your choices, govern your behavior. So card pile 2, overall, how do you live your best life? It's going to be through self-government. So for most of you, you have allowed external agents in one form or another to govern you, to govern your choices, your life, your behaviors, your actions, even whether they approve or disapprove, even whether they, they're affected or not, or if they have a direct say to you or an explicit say to you or not. And this is about you taking back the power, taking back the reins. You get to govern yourself, as shocking as that is, and in all areas of your life. Nobody gets a say but you. And eventually, ultimately, everyone will fall in line because you get to be you. So self-government, card pile 2. That is how you're going to live your best life. So if you resonate with this reading, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new video pops up. If you want to get to know more about me, you can check out those details below or at erritygreen.com. Thank you, card pile 2. Card pile 3. This is a good one. How to live your best life. Card pile 3. This is all about you opening your heart, not trying so hard, not striving so hard, not doing it all, not making it all happen, forcing it, commanding it, just all the doing and striving and forcing and controlling and micromanaging. And there's no judgment here. And I'm just trying to come up with all the different ways that this energy could show up, because I want each of you who are here to be able to be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's me. That's 100% me. Because here's the truth of that. All of that, all the efforting that you do, the controlling, the managing, the trying to get all your ducks in a row, crossing the I's, dotting the T's, tying up the loose ends, making the calls, all of that it's almost like an avoidance mechanism so that you don't have to open your heart and just let go and love and allow love and experience love. It's all an avoidance of opening and softening your heart and stepping into the tenderness. And not just the tenderness, but it's almost like the experience of surrender. So there's something here about greasing the wheels and supporting yourself and facilitating yourself so you can create space to let go, to surrender, to be in your soft, achy, breaky heart, to let yourself feel and to let yourself feel bad, even if it means feeling bad. But it's about allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to be tender, even allowing yourself to be weak, allowing yourself to not know, allowing yourself to fuck up, allowing yourself to make a mistake, allowing yourself to drop the ball, allowing yourself to have the accident, to say the wrong thing, to do the wrong thing, to upset someone. Because there's something here about, living so rigidly or adhering to such strong codes or standards or expectations, morals, ethics, and rules, or shoulds, or ideas of how things should be, all these ideals, that because you're living by the book so intensely at so many levels, you're unable to fully sort of relax into your own heart. And you're unable to, there's something here about allowing yourself to love and or receive love as well. It's like you're so busy dotting your I's and crossing your T's. You're so busy doing all the things and efforting and trying to control that you're not able to get into that heart space. That's all head space, the stuff that we've been talking about. That's all head space. What wants to come through, how to live your best life, is to allow yourself to live and be in your heart. It's to listen to your heart, to follow your heart, to let yourself feel, to let yourself go, to let yourself be. So what if you did let it all go? So what if it all went to shit? So what if it all went to hell in a handbasket? And so what? Because it's not so much of like letting your life go to shit, because like that's not the result actually, and that's the irony of it all. It's starting to see where you can be loved and held so deeply and surrender and see that it all works out anyway. And watch how people show up and opportunities pop up and things happen in order to support all of this to unfold and support your life to remain quote unquote organized or whatever, even without you having to do it all. Even without you having to lift a finger. It's like you haven't known or seen any different because you haven't allowed it. So all you know is doing it and controlling it. You don't yet know or haven't fully realized that if you are to let go and let it all go to shit, the irony is that it doesn't go to shit. In fact, you just call in more support. You call in the troops, basically. You call in the help. You call in the help from spirit, the hand of God, as well as other people in your actual life and your actual support network and your actual community when you let yourself be vulnerable, when you let yourself let go. And it's not a domineering kind of thing either, because that's the problem with, not that there's no problem, but the energy is this. It's like if you were to go to ask for help from that domineering energy of, I just can't get it all done, I don't know what I'm gonna do, right? And it's like when you're in that overwhelm, that's a very masculine sort of energy, and it's very domineering and intense. So when you go to someone, they're kind of like stung, and oftentimes that kind of energy, unfortunately, when you need it most, you need that support, you need the troops to come in, you need the hand of God, but you're pushing ahead so much and so domineering and in that forceful kind of nature that in fact it repels energetically the other person or God or energy or whatever to come in. So instead it's more about just literally letting go and like again, letting it all go to shit then, if that's what it must do. But you'll find that when you let it all go to shit, that it doesn't actually all go to shit. In fact, you just allow yourself to feel loved because you release, it's like a rock bottom of sorts where you release all of that energy, and in doing that, you can then receive. You can then actually feel input. Something that a lot of this is about, instead of being in the energy or embodiment of output, it's surrendering that, letting go of output completely. Not you say it, but you're actually still in it because you're still thinking about all the things you have to do and thinking about all the calls you have to make and thinking about that task list that's never going to get done. And then if you would take a break, you're going to have to do it later. No, that's still more output. So it literally has to be a true, deep, guttural, visceral, deep in your bowels surrender. Like you are feeling this, maybe even groaning and wailing this, we're going back to ancient times, the dinosaurs, they can hear you scream, that kind of primal surrender, where you say, that's it. Like it's gone. It's just gone. There's no having to say anything, having to think anything. You surrendered that energy, and now you've made room for input. You've made room for other people to show up, for the hand of God to show up, for things to begin to flow in your direction and support you. But it requires you to let go of control, to let go of all the ideas and notions and things or whatever that prevent you from letting go. And a lot of this is an avoidance of love. A lot of this is an avoidance of intimacy, an avoidance of support. If you close your heart, you won't have to open it to love and or then eventually get burned or get hurt or get stung. So it's easier just to stay outside of the heart, stay in the mind, get all things done, this, that, or the other, whatever you got to do, homework, family, children, whatever, because then you still get a sense of accomplishment. You still kind of feel like you're doing something. You're able to kind of scratch people's backs. So then you get kind of like that approval and love from everybody else, right? Life's simple. But it's saying your best life is in letting all of that go so that you can learn to be vulnerable and that you can learn to receive too. They're inputs for you, incoming energy, as opposed to outputs, ongoing outputs, control, micromanaging, got to do this, got to do that. It's all an effort and avoidance, all big fat defense mechanism for avoidance of love. So ultimately it's not real, it's not true. Yeah, stepping into your feminine energy. This is what's going to bring you the harmony and fulfillment you seek. So for those of you in Carb Pile 3, you might be used to your masculine energy. You might be used to being in the mind space for all the reasons that we've shared and all the ways that we've shared, all the examples I've provided. And you are seeking something, you might not even know what it is, but ultimately it's about stepping more into your feminine energy, into a space of receiving and vulnerability and opening your heart and all the other things that we talked about, letting go, letting yourself receive. And it's, again, and this has come up in each of these piles, it's going to be impossible to fathom, impossible to envision, feel, imagine, or have any felt sense of this when you're thinking of it from the mind or thinking of it from the masculine. So this is what I had each of the other piles do, and it keeps coming up. I want you to shelve all the just all the ways that you typically do things. Just for a moment, I want you to suspend all of that. You know, the belief that all these tasks have to get done, the belief that you're going to be the only one to do it, the belief, you know, in any kind of like doing, striving, efforting, achieving, overdoing, overcompensating, shouldering, bearing the weight, leading the cause, all that stuff. We're going to set that aside for a minute. Any kind of control, micromanage, mental, or masculine energy, we're setting that aside for a moment. Now I want you to ask yourself, if I allowed myself to be completely vulnerable, I allowed myself the freedom and complete freedom to feel, and I allowed myself to even be weak or fuck it up sometimes or let go of it all, if I allowed myself to let it all just, what did I say? Let the shit hit the fan, right? Or let the life crumble, whatever. If I allowed myself to go there completely and surrender completely, what would my life look like instead? And so since you've shelved and surrendered immediately, you know, for right now, or temporarily rather, momentarily, all that other stuff, now you're freeing yourself to just kind of stream of consciousness, see what comes up. What is your life like when you're in more input mode? When incoming energy is on its way, when people are showing up to help and lending a hand, and there's room for God and Great Spirit to guide you, to lead you, to hold you, to support you. You might not even know what that looks like. And again, that's why, because if you're thinking from the old mind, from within that confinement or that limitation, you're not going to at all be able to see another reality. That's what we're saying. We're shelving it momentarily, and you're just asking, if I allowed myself complete freedom to surrender and let it all go, and if it all fucks up, then so be it. How would I live my life? What choices would I make? Who would I surround myself with? What kinds of things would I spend my time doing? What would my life look like? You know, whatever. So you're just going to ask yourself to sort of free-form journal, you know, as outrageous as it even might be, putting it all on paper. You might even say, I'm traveling the country, I'm disappearing, I'm a gypsy over and who knows where. It doesn't matter. You want it to be as free as possible because that's the truth. Unrestrained, unheld down, unlimited. So you're releasing all of those rules and limits just for a moment to be able to see what is possible. And then I want you to look at it and reflect and explore how your life will look different, and start feeling into that energy and playfully, aka experimentally, like not taking it too serious or making it too heavy or making another job, duty, or burden, but you might start exploring that in your life. And sometimes the awareness itself, once you have it, sort of guides you, you know, less you doing the work, more it doing you. And so for you, card pile 3, living your best life is around, you know, letting it all go, or letting it go. Letting life do you. Let's see what else is here. Yeah. It's being for each of these readings, I've said a lot of things, and then the very next card pretty much affirms what I've already said. So it's like we give so much, and by the time I get to the next card, I've already read it. But it's about letting yourself be, letting yourself live, letting yourself savor and experience and surrender so that you can just be here now, and more of that state of being as opposed to human doing. But it's also allowing yourself to like get into that soft spaces of the heart where things might feel tender, like things might feel vulnerable, things might feel uncomfortable, but letting yourself feel, letting yourself receive. Being able to step outside of the old ways of doing things, like we talked about, getting out of the mental or the masculine or the doing or the striving, achieving. Maybe every day you journal first thing in the morning, you set all that aside and you say, if I were to live by my feminine or by my vulnerability or in my heart space or totally surrendered, you know, what would my day look like, or how would I spend my day today? I was willing to fuck up, to make a mistake, to not do it all right, not meet an ideal, not meet an expectation or standard, and I would just live by my heart and let that be that. How would I live my life today? And so you might start your day every day like that, to start getting yourself and your mindset and even your heart and your feeling state on board with this new reality, this new paradigm, this new way of living and being. So let's see what else is happening here. Yeah, because you know what this is? It's like a defiance of everything outside of you, or all the ideas or anything that you've been taught and told, in favor of self-love. This is about self-love. This is about you coming into a space of radical self-love. That's the card, radical self-love. And very rarely do I read the cards directly. You know, it's usually intuitively. But very clearly here, it's like this big, defiant act of rebellion, revolution, right? And revolution has the word love in it. This defiant act of self-love, that you get to be loved too, or you get to be loved first, or you matter. You know, you matter. Let me see what else wants to come through here. How to live your best life. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to be tender, to step out of the mind space and into the heart space. Doing so allows you, leaving behind the mind space, creates space, allows you to be able to receive, allows energy to come toward you. It brings energy your way versus the other way around. What else here? Realizing that this too is a strength. This too is a strength. Living in this kind of space, living in the vulnerability is a different kind of strength, but it's what ensures that you are sort of given to too, or that you also receive. It's kind of a great circle of life. It's how things are meant to flow. It's not meant to be just you doing output, 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 output all the time, because that's not sustainable. That's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to be able to lean back and let things come to you as well. There's a leaning back here, a letting go, a surrendering. Yeah, recognizing where you can let go of control in your life and whatever other areas, and just live life as it is, without any rules or shoulds or tasks or agenda. You know, how can you live life as it is? Is there anything else that wants to come through here? How to live your best life. Love yourself enough to let go. Love yourself enough to let go. Love yourself enough to let go. That's really what it is for you, card pile 3. And I feel like this is it would be a revolution for you, because it would be immense, highly significant soul growth for you. To be able to step into this, love yourself enough to let go. And then the irony of it all too is that you then are able to receive. So some of you might be seeking that. Some of you might be find that you're the doer. Some of you might find that you're the person who gives and does and is generous, and maybe you don't receive. And it's because of you being an output, you being in the mental space, you being in the masculine space, you being in the forceful space, you being in the agenda space. The more you can let yourself release all of that, and some of the ways that we talked about, if you have to shelve it or write it all out and shelve it, so you can get into the habit, the space of letting go and letting in. That's where you're going to find it clicks. So that's how you're going to live your best life, card pile 3. If this resonates for you, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new video pops up. If you want to get to know more about me and my work, you can check out those details below or at erritygreen.com. Thank you, card pile 3.